Fragments of Emily's memories fill her head. Her mother tells her half-sister Chloe that although she is her own daughter, they have been raising Emily for 15 years, and they have a very close relationship. Emily is known to everyone as the eldest daughter of the family, but she is not her own daughter. She does not understand in the pool what is happening and where she is, and memories continue to emerge uncontrollably in her memory. She recalls how her mother scolds her for trying to participate in the competition. She has been striving for this for so long, but her mother says that she will not succeed and will only dishonor the whole family with her participation. In the real world, Emily and Chloe lie in a hospital bed where Emily gives her blood to Chloe. The voices in the girl's head say that she is a redneck and she cannot be a real child of the family of the great and rich Ying family. Voices do not stop and repeat that the girl is pathetic and mediocre and will never be considered a real child of this great family. From the horror of the voices in her head, Emily quickly wakes up. She was lying in a hospital bed, and the sun had been shining outside for a long time, while Emily was unconscious. The needle in her hand was covered with plaster. She did not remember everything that she dreamed. Only some fragments were still spinning in her head. Emily could not understand what had happened to her, because some of the memories were completely not hers, and she thought that now she is no longer the defenseless girl that she was before. A doctor entered the room. She coldly said that she did not expect the girl to wake up and assumed that she would die. The doctor rudely and abruptly pulled the needle out of the girl's wrist and said that she had lost consciousness from a large loss of blood. The doctor grinned at the fact that the girl considered herself a noble lady. The girl's hand began to bleed. Emily thought that such boorish behavior should not be left without a corresponding reaction. She abruptly got out of bed and hit the doctor's head on the table. Suddenly, Chloe ran into the room with requests to let the doctor go. Emily said that she did not do it on purpose, but by accident, because she had not yet fully regained consciousness, and she dreamed that she was attacked by a dog. The doctor's name was Eva, and she knew perfectly well that Emily was lying and called her an ungrateful brat. Chloe began to ask how Emily felt. She was worried about her, because if she had not had this terrible disease, Emily would not have given her her blood. Emily remembered that Chloe was standing in front of her. The First Lady of Shanghai and a famous pianist in China, she was her half-sister. Emily has always known that Chloe treats her like a blood bank that comes and goes as she pleases. The girl is sure that she fainted only because she was forcibly taken blood for several days. In fact, she has the spirit of the goddess of the cultivation spirit world, who has turned into an abandoned girl who is constantly bullied by others. Emily laughs. Does everyone around still think that she is still a defenseless girl? The doctor angrily asks Chloe why she is apologizing to Emily, as she is an adopted redneck who doesn't know her place. Eva tries to start a conflict with Emily, who silently thinks about her destiny. After a second, Emily turns to the doctor and tells her to shut up and keep quiet. The doctor throws the papers on the table in a rage. She apologizes to Chloe in advance and says that she will not treat Emily due to her obscene behavior. Emily points the doctor to the exit. Eva got even angry. She was not used to being treated like that. Leaving, Eva says that Emily is just a girl who is trying to seduce her uncle, after which she left the room slamming the door hard. Chloe says that Eva is an experienced doctor, and Emily pissed her off, and who will treat her now. But Emily believes that nothing serious has happened to her, and she will recover on her own, especially since she is sure that Chloe is not worried about her, but that she will no longer give her blood. Chloe worries about Emily and almost cries, but Emily does not pay attention to this. She wants to know who pushed Chloe down the stairs. Emily turns to Chloe and asks if she agrees with her, because everyone around thinks that it was she who pushed her down the stairs and constantly blames her for this. Chloe pretends not to remember how it was, and Emily leaves the room, in which her stepsister remains motionless. Emily turns around, looks at the room number, and remembers that this room was chosen just for her, and it is very comfortable. Chloe has a feeling that Emily herself is not herself. Something has clearly changed in her. She takes her phone out of her pocket, calls her boyfriend Austin, and says that she needs help, urgently needs to talk to Emily. The action takes place in a night city. The beautiful Emily walks through the city, stopping the looks of passers-by. The two guys look at Emily and discuss whether she was adopted by the IN family. One of the guys is called Mason. He is a second-generation rich man. Mason tells his friend, who tosses the ring up, that Emily had a fight with her uncle. The second guy's name is Liam. He is the young master of the Fu family. Both guys do not understand how, after such a scandal with their uncle, Emily can safely walk around the city. Liam did not know Emily, and Mason informed him that she was only adopted in order to give Chloe a blood transfusion, because they have the same RA factors. Suddenly, two street thugs surrounded Emily and threatened with a knife that they wanted to have some fun with her. Liam, seeing this, offers Mason to help the girl. But Mason said that Emily should not be contacted, much less help her. A sharp blow, and one of the bandits starts screaming. Mason didn't even understand what happened right away. Emily rubs her hands. She stands with one foot on the lying body of one of her offenders. The guy with the knife says he'll fix the thing's face and lashes out at Emily. But with one roundhouse kick, Emily knocks the guy out and he falls to the ground. Mason is shocked. He knows for sure that Emily was discharged from the hospital a couple of days ago, but from where she has so many strengths, now Mason does not even know which of them is a real bandit. Liam continues to watch Emily. He began to be attracted to this girl. Mason even pinched his hand to check if he was sleeping. Liam says that Emily's every punch is well-timed, and no matter what the thugs did, they didn't stand a chance against Emily. Mason does not understand who Emily is, and does she really know ancient martial arts? Liam wonders if Emily is really a fighter. Suddenly, Mason is grabbed by the shoulder. It was Emily coming up from behind. Mason was frightened. He didn't understand why she approached him. Did she really hear that he spoke badly about her? Mason falls on his knees in front of Emily. He begins to cry and justify himself to her that he simply loves to gossip and did not want to offend Emily. Liam, with a smirk, asks Mason what kind of position he has. Maybe he is going to propose to Emily. Mason justifies himself that the Naga let him down and bowed to Emily herself. Suddenly, Emily's eyes glowed a bright golden color, and she began to say that in 3 days at 7 o'clock in the evening, there would be a real carnage in the bar. After 7 days, starting at noon, Emily advises against entering the territory of the Putong area, as their lives may be in danger. Both guys stood at a loss. Liam assumed that Emily was a fortune teller, but Emily came to her senses and sheepishly replied that she did not know what had happened, but thanked them for listening to her. Emily knew that she was just testing her gift on them now, but she still needed practice to fully restore her abilities. Liam turns to Emily with a request to predict his fate. Mason does not understand how he consciously took this step, because it's just nonsense. Suddenly, Mason decides to translate the conversation and says that Emily should not pay attention to Liam, and also said that they can give her a ride. But Emily turned around and said that she did not need it. Emily was a little upset that she did not accept the offer, but at the same moment, Liam said that for her prediction, he could treat her to dinner. The second time she could not refuse. They came to an expensive restaurant called Pavilion. Mason was worried that his father might come here, but at the same time, he thought that he would most likely sign up in advance. Mason kindly offered Emily to treat herself to dishes, since everything is at their expense, because they do not experience a lack of money. Emily, on the contrary, said that she was in need of money. Mason was surprised and asked if Emily is supported by her family, because even the servants are given money, not to mention the adopted daughter. Emily said that she was an adopted daughter. She did not study etiquette or floristry. Why would such a disgrace like her suddenly give money? Liam encourages Emily and says that her inherited mannerisms are visible to the naked eye. Emily puts down her cup and remembers that she came to Earth in the middle of the 15th century, and at that time was at all royal receptions. But for now, she needs to get used to her new personality. She thought that the energy of this world had almost dried up until she came here. Who would have thought that a sensor would be a tiny source of energy? The main thing for Emily was the restoration of her own abilities in a new body. Emily asks Liam what interesting places she can visit in Shanghai. Mason laughs and says that this is too much. He does not understand how Emily, living in Shanghai for so long, never went anywhere. But Emily realized with sadness that a living blood bank does not have such an opportunity. Liam hands Emily a bowl of soup and asks her to eat it, because she is very thin, and she should be more attentive to her own body. Liam asks how many times Chloe has been injured this year. Emily says that she has been in the hospital at least 20 times. Mason is amazed and asks if Emily has really donated her blood to Chloe 20 times already. Emily says that even more than 20 times, she thinks that one day she will wake up and the juices of this body will be completely exhausted. Liam jokes that Emily has the opportunity to get into the Guinness Book of Records. Mason thought that Liam's voice is very gentle. This may mean that he has certain feelings for her. Mason says that Liam is right and Emily should eat better, after which he asks the waitress to bring a serving of pork liver. Suddenly, the door of the establishment slammed. Chloe's fiancé Austin went inside. He is the first heir of the Big Four. The waiter immediately approached him and offered to lead him to the table. One of his henchmen asked Austin to look at the table where Emily was sitting. He immediately recognized the Few family guy who was trying to feed Emily. Austin apologized to the people he'd come with and headed over to the table where Emily was sitting. Liam tried to feed Emily on his own, but she didn't hate offal and refused. The curtain covering their table abruptly moved aside. Austin immediately asked Emily why she left the hospital. He added that he didn't have time for Emily, and she should come home immediately and explain her behavior as Chloe was worried. The henchman said that his master Austin was a very busy man, and he did not need any extra trouble with Emily. Emily asked with a grin if Austin was following her. He angrily replied that she had no right to talk to him like that. Liam stated that Emily is of particular value. He asked Emily to look at him and not at Austin. Thereby, he wanted to divert her attention. Austin, dissatisfied with the situation that had happened, went to his table. Mason, feeling that he had witnessed a grandiose show, was exhausted from excitement. Liam looked at him and said he was disgusting. Liam looked at Emily again with affection and said that they could go to the pedestrian street, the amusement park, or the aquarium. And there is an underground fair near the TV tower where you can buy dragonstone, tell fortunes, and the like. Emily curiously asked how they read fortunes, to which Liam replied that they read tarot cards there. Emily was delighted. She hadn't read tarot cards for many years, but she wasn't sure if they could survive to this day. Liam immediately realized that this interested her more than those places where girls usually go. Liam warned that the market was open after midnight and not safe, so if she wanted to go, she should go with him. Emily drove home with Liam in her car. Liam asked Emily if it was true that the head of the Ying family brought her from the village to Shanghai. She nodded her head and added that they told her they would send her to college, but on the way she had an accident and ended up in the hospital. The injuries she received were not serious, but she had the same blood type as Chloe's half-sister. Liam asked in horror if that was the only reason she was adopted. Emily replied that she was a jar of live blood delivered to the door. Liam touched Emily's head with his hand. She was surprised and asked what he was doing. He told her not to think too much and go home, and he would look after her. They said goodbye. Emily walked to the entrance to the house, and Liam watched her trail. The door was opened by the butler, and he immediately asked if Emily had calmed down, since her mother said that if the girl was so capricious, she might not come home until she apologized. Emily got angry, turned around, and started to leave, but the butler began to stop her. Left the house. He began to persuade Emily to apologize to Chloe because there was no use in her disobedience on the street. The butler said that Emily would not be able to win her mother's trust in such an angry state. Liam came up from behind and interrupted their conversation, saying that he did not think that in the Ying family, servants could order their masters. Emily turned around and was pleasantly surprised that he hadn't left yet. The butler said that the relationship with Mr. Fu is bad. But Liam said that if he hadn't left, Emily would have been bullied, which means he did well. Liam moved closer to the butler and rudely asked to whom he was pointing to apologize. Then he slapped the butler in the face. The butler immediately started apologizing to Emily, saying that he shouldn't have acted like that. Liam put his arm around Emily's waist and told her he was the one to see her off. Emily's mother was sitting on the couch reading a book. Her name was Becca. She heard someone come in, and without looking up, she asked if Emily had finally given up. But looking up, she saw the butler, Emily, and Liam standing together, which made her very surprised. Putting the book down, she said that Liam was the 7th master of the Fu family. Since only yesterday she had spoken to his father, she asked him why he came to the Ying family's house so late. Liam said that he was afraid for the baby, because if he sent her home, she would be bullied again. Madame asked what he meant. The butler had already begun to tell her that he had been rude to Emily. But without listening to it, Becca told Liam that it was just a misunderstanding and he could already leave. Liam said that if Madame really thought so, then the rumors about her kindness were true, and he hoped that Emily was no longer in danger. He turned to Emily, saying that she could call him at any time if something happened. Emily worried about him and, bewildered, wished him a good road and good night. Without talking to Becca, Emily said she was tired and would go upstairs to rest. Madame threw the book on the floor. She is furious and not happy with Emily's behavior. If earlier Emily foolishly flirted with Austin, now she flirts with Liam. The butler reminded her to call Chloe as she was waiting for her call. Madame really forgot about it. Becca immediately called her daughter, with whom she began to talk sweetly as if she were her beloved daughter. Once upon a time, when Becca adopted Emily, she even loved her. But over time, their relationship became more and more cold, unlike her relationship with Chloe. Emily was at her computer, but at some point the computer stopped working. Emily checked her balance on her phone. It didn't have much money, but it should have been enough for her. She opened the window. She climbed onto the edge of the window frame and jumped out of it. The butler was standing at the window, and it seemed to him that something was happening outside the window. However, due to poor eyesight, he did not see how Emily slipped away from him. It was night on the streets of Shanghai. Liam was sitting at the Starry Sky bar. A charming bartender girl flirting with Liam warned him that $1 million was being paid for his death, and he should be more careful. But Liam said that first they had to find him. Suddenly, in the window of the bar, he saw Emily walking through the city. He thought some of the little ones misbehaved. Emily walked over to the shop counter. She found what she was looking for. The merchant said that the coin Emily wants to buy is worth $500. Emily took the coin and deposited $500 into the merchant's account. Looking at Emily, they began to say that she was a beggar. One of the merchants suggested that she beg him, and then he would forgive her half the amount. But Emily turned and began to leave, and the merchants shouted insulting curses after her. Suddenly, a stranger ran up to Emily and said that his master was ready to offer her $6 million for the coin she had bought. Emily turned around and saw an old man with a hat and a cane. His name was Logan, and his young assistant, Steve. Logan said that if the price wasn't enough, she could raise it, and the assistant said that his foreman was a professional appraiser. The merchant heard the whole conversation, and when he saw the document confirming the position of a senior appraiser, he was convinced that this coin was really expensive. Emily thought that in the 21st century, there were many new professions that she did not know about. Emily did not hesitate for a long time and agreed to the deal, after which the assistant handed her a bank card with 6 million yuan. The card was black with gilding on it. But suddenly the merchant realized that the money must be his. He rushed to Emily, yelling that he would not sell her the coin and demanding that she return it. Emily expected this to happen. With one powerful kick to the stomach, she threw him a few meters to the side. The merchant lay on the ground unconscious. Emily took the bank card and thanked Logan for the deal. The merchant, who came to his senses, turned to the administrator of the underground market and asked them for help in returning the thing that he had sold. But the underground market was under the rules of the underground market, and the manager ordered that this trader be thrown out without the right to reinstatement, after which the manager approached Emily and asked her to apologize for the inconvenience. At this time, Liam was watching what was happening with the bartender girl, who said that Emily was very ferocious. But Liam did not think so. He saw in Emily only softness, tenderness, and sincerity. The bartender asked why Liam did not rush to her aid. Liam looked at the bartender and said that it wouldn't be smart to meet again when he had already said goodnight to her 2 hours ago, after which Liam left the bartender standing outside and left alone. On the other side of the alley, Steve was walking with Logan through an underground market. Steve was upset that they had wasted $6 million, but Logan insisted otherwise because he saw such a funny little girl. Suddenly, when Steve was about to ask the question again, he saw that the old man suddenly clutched his chest with his hand, flinched, and began to fall down. Steve did not expect that Logan would suddenly get sick. He had recently had an operation, although the master survived. But the problem still remained. Steve was sweating all over with worry, hands shaking as he tried to get the medicine, but to no avail. Just as panic was about to get the better of him, a voice came from behind him. Emily told him to lay him on his back so he could breathe easier. Emily stepped closer to them, squatted down, put her hand on Logan's pulse, and frowned. Seeing the behavior of the girl, Steve, in the end, came to his senses. He was shocked and angry, cried out, "Do not touch." If something goes wrong, no one can take responsibility. He wanted to hit her on the arm, but missed, hitting the ground. Steve sighed and got even angrier, and immediately asked what she wanted to do. Emily looked at him calmly and said she just wanted to save the man. Steve contained his anger and began to call. He told them where they were and the need to hurry. He hung up and turned to Emily, but before he could speak, he heard the girl's words. The arrhythmia, the pain in the precordial region increased and spread to the left shoulder and abdomen. Smoking caused a blackout in the lungs, and the blockages in the airways were not completely cleared. At the end, Emily looked up and said that from midnight to 8 in the morning, there is a peak period. A month ago, he had an operation. He was not supposed to go out. Steve was shocked because she was absolutely right. She made the exact diagnosis, even telling the exact time of the operation. Emily asked for silver needles. Steve had not yet recovered from the shock when he heard the girl's quiet voice again. Steve did not have time to think about how she knew that he had silver needles with him, but simply hurriedly handed her the box. Emily opened the box and took out 7 silver needles at once. Watching this, Steve could not help reminding her that she would use no more than 4 at a time. When Miss Meng from the world of ancient medicine treated the master, she could only use 4 silver needles at a time. Steve became interested in this and found out that in the world of ancient medicine, there are practically no people who can use 7 silver needles at the same time. If you think about it, how can you handle 7 silver needles with only 1 pair of hands? But in the next second, Steve's face stretched out, and his eyes involuntarily widened. Before his eyes, 7 silver needles, one by one, in blurred movements, hit the acupuncture points with incredible speed. Steve tried to catch the position of the needles, but with fear found that he could not do it. After Emily finished with the last acupuncture point, the lying Logan finally breathed a sigh of relief, and his blue complexion turned pinkish again. The whole treatment process took less than a minute. Emily collected the silver needles and returned them to the box, after which stood up, put her hand in her pocket, and lazily said that she had finished. Steve was still in a daze, but now he fell into a real shock. Even Miss Men, after Logan's treatment, is usually exhausted, having recovered a little. Logan slowly got up with the help of Steve, clearing his throat a few more times. His face became serious, but it was hidden in his eyes' tenderness, and his voice sounded soothing. Logan said that the girl saved his life and asked if she needed something. It's been a long time since Emily treated someone, but her abilities remained at the same level. In the future, if money is needed, this business can feed it. In gratitude, Logan took out a jade pendant and said seriously that if Emily ever had problems with the law, he would definitely help her. This is not just a promise. This is the promise of the patriarch of the Mu family. Emily did not want to take anything, but when she saw the word Mu on the jade pendant, her eyes narrowed for a moment. She remembered something and still agreed. Logan was satisfied with this. He laughed and asked the name of the girl. He thought that it was rare to find a little girl who was so pleasing to the eye, so it was worth getting to know her better. Emily said that her surname is Ying. Logan immediately thought of the Ying family, one of the 4 largest families in Shanghai. Then Logan suggested that she go to the imperial capital together, but Emily said that she was not interested at the moment, nodded politely, and left. Logan regretted that she was not the daughter of his family, and at the same time told his assistant that they were staying for a few more days. On the street, the morning had already come, which pleased the eye with its rays. The warm midday sun shone. In the distance, in the blue of the sky, like white birds, clouds floated. Such moments of peace and tranquility were rare. Emily was still asleep in her bed and didn't hear the phone ring at all. But the phone did not stop ringing, and she woke up to see who so insistently wanted to hear her. Picking up the phone, she saw that it was Liam calling. As soon as she picked up the phone, Liam immediately asked if she was asleep, to which she replied that she had just woken up. Taking a deep breath, Liam asked what she was doing yesterday, because her voice was like a newborn kitten, as if she had not slept all night. Before answering, Emily thought for a moment and said that she went to bed at 4 o'clock. She said that she was studying new technologies of the 21st century and found something called web drama. As a result, she spent a good 3 hours watching it. The plot was extremely bloody, but quite interesting. In old age, she definitely had something to do. Liam continued in a deep voice, and if she stays up late, she will go bald and become ugly. Emily yawned and without much thought replied that she had a lot of hair and was naturally beautiful. He was confused for a moment and then laughed. Liam finally stopped laughing, took a deep breath, and said that he was already an old man, so if he doesn't sleep enough, his back starts to hurt. Emily clenched her hair tie in her teeth, raised her free left hand, and pulled her long hair back together and said that Liam had kidney failure, and if he wanted, she could cure him. Liam became interested and replied that the little girl turned out to be very strong. In addition to fortune-telling, she also understands ancient medicine. But where did she learn all this? And said that she must definitely show him the white bone claw. Emily was silent for a moment, and then asked what the white bone claw was. He lazily began to explain that this is a story about incomparable martial arts. Liam thought for a while, and then smiled and said, about how to crush a person's head with the palm of your hand. There is too much cruelty for such young girls. The girl removed the phone from her ear and opened Twitter to check the list of news. She always learned everything quickly. In addition to Chloe's rehabilitation tags, which took first place, a new one appeared, which gradually rose to the top of the rating and will definitely hit the top in the near future. The ungrateful adoptive daughter of the Ying family, due to this hot search, more and more people wrote her personal messages that she was obliged to donate her blood to Chloe. She again put the phone to her ear and asked not to be called a child. Emily took a sip of water, turned her head and looked out the window. A Maserati stopped behind the iron gate, from which her grandmother Emma stepped out. Liam said that he was waiting for her to cure his kidney failure, but Emily was already thinking of something else. Turning off her phone, she put it in her pocket listlessly. The door of the house opened. A gentle female voice sounded, in which notes of surprise slipped through. "Daughter-in-law, you have not eaten yet." Becca turned around and froze for a moment. She did not expect to see her husband's mother here with Chloe. Becky's heart began to beat faster, and she hurried ahead. She said that she didn't expect her mother to arrive, so she didn't prepare properly. For a long time, Emma moved to her apartment and did not live in her son's house, so as not to embarrass them with her presence, and Chloe lived with her, since the apartment was in the city center. Old Emma said that she would leave as soon as she dealt with the problem, and said to call Emily. It was clear from her tone that she was not happy with her behavior, which Chloe clearly told her about. Becca told Chloe to stay with her grandmother while she went and fetched Emily. Hearing this, old Lady Ying became angry. She slammed her cane on the floor and chuckled, saying that this would not happen. Emily caused trouble and must be followed when it was in the Ying family that they began to confuse black with white. Emily slowly appeared at the top of the stairs. She raised her head and looked around the hall. As if not at all surprised by the presence of 3 people, she asked what was the matter. This indifference angered Becca. She asked if she was going to say hello to her grandmother. "No need," said Emma. She raised her hand and said that she had only one granddaughter. Her name was Chloe, and this adopted daughter, after all that she had done for her, was nobody. Emily nodded slightly, and without losing her composure, lazily replied that she was not in the habit of disowning relatives so casually. Old Emma hit the floor again with her cane and almost jumped out of her seat. She intended to embarrass her adopted daughter, but suddenly she was embarrassed herself. Becca became even more angry and stretched out her hand to hit the girl, but Emma stopped her. She said that you should not beat her, no matter how much she deserved it. But at the same time, Emma demanded an apology from Emily for her gross, impolite behavior. Emily looked up, looked at her lazily, and said she wouldn't do it. They weren't even related. Fine, just as indifferently said old Lady Ying. But today she did not come here to punish Emily. Let her answer why she pushed Chloe that day at the banquet. Maybe she thinks that without Chloe, she can become the mistress of the family Ying. It was a direct accusation. In an instant, Chloe's expression changed dramatically, and she panicked. She turned to her grandmother and told her that she should not believe the rumors. Becca also stood up for Emily, because all this has not been proven, and why she directly blames Emily for this. Grandma said that it was really only her assumption, but the fact that Emily tried to seduce Austin was an indisputable fact. And how dare they stand up for Emily after that? After these words, the faces of Chloe and Becky changed, because in fact, they could not argue with these. Becca, although she tried to at least somehow protect Emily, she perfectly understood that this accusation was objective, after which she approached her and rocked that she really should apologize at least for this. Emily was leaning against the door with her long legs slightly bent. When she heard this, she lifted her head slightly and asked if they thought she was blind. Seeing that Emily was upset, old Emma grinned angrily and said that Emily came from a small provincial town and became so vulgar that it's hard to imagine what else she can do. Fingers trembled. She'd never been so embarrassed before. Moreover, her own daughter had put her in such an awkward position. She finally broke down and leaned forward, just as Becca was about to slap Emily when a soft female voice suddenly sounded from the quiet living room. "Emily, go to the 1801 room of the Queen Center Hotel and wait for me. I have prepared bath accessories and new clothes for you. After you take a shower, you will walk with your sister along the promenade." Becca was caught off guard, and her slapping hand hung in the air. They realized it was Chloe's voice. Emily boredly tossed her cell phone and turned off the recording. The new technologies of the 21st century are really good. This phone will automatically record every phone conversation, so I don't even have to make any effort. Old Emma was suddenly embarrassed. Her face hardened, a little blue for a while, and then reddened, thinking of the words spoken earlier and the recording she heard. She could not wait to find a hole to dig into. Chloe reacted quickly. She lowered her eyes and whispered that it was her fault. She just forgot that she asked Emily to come. She did not expect Austin to return at this time. At this point, the butler who was checking Twitter suddenly said, Madam, this is not good. Someone posted a video of that banquet." Becca asked. She was stunned and urgently asked to see this video. "The video is good," said old Emma and chuckled. "Now that all the evidence is in front of us, there will be no room for lies." Butler hurriedly put the phone in front of old Emma and Becca. Chloe seemed to realize something. Her expression slightly changed. She wanted to stop the recording, but the video started playing automatically, and it was too late to try to turn it off. On the screen, Chloe gracefully descended the stairs. Halfway through, however, her right foot stepped on the hem of her skirt. As she fell, she grabbed hold of Emily, who was walking behind her with one hand. But she still could not hold on and fell, and Emily managed to grab onto the ladder. Nobody obviously expected to see such an outcome of the video. Especially Emma was eager to blame Emily for anything. But now it was clear that Emily was not to blame for anything. And this short video of less than 20 seconds was placed in the top of hot requests. This video was like a loud slap to both Becca and old Emma, showing everything that happened. Blood rushed to Chloe's face. She became so ashamed, her lips twisted, and her voice sounded creaky. At that moment, even old Emma didn't know what to say. She wanted to get rid of her embarrassment and regain some confidence. But who knew that now she was even more embarrassed? Family's family trait of slandering people seems to be inherited from Emily's tale. She took off one of her headphones and casually added, "Well done. Keep up the good work." In one sentence, she slapped them again. Old Emma's face turned purple. Her breathing became erratic. She was clearly very angry, but the girl had already pushed the door and left the room, while no one paid attention to her. Becca shook her head and smiled softly. She thought too much. Even if Emily leaves today, she will still come back, because the Ying family is her home. Where else can she go? One-room apartment in the city center. Liam was holding a glass of hot wolfberry and date tea. At that moment, a beep sounded in his ears. He turned his head and looked at his suddenly darkened computer, raised his eyebrows and tapped the keyboard several times. A line of bright red words quickly appeared on the dark screen, with the question of who did you do this for? Liam put down the cup, pursed his lips, and then typed out that he wanted to spoil her. The screen was unchanged for about 10 seconds before another line of words appeared on it. Someone asked me to find out about you. 3 people, all on the hunt list. I hope you live to see us. Liam's eyelashes twitched and he chuckled slightly. Liam carefully looked at the folders, but did not open them, after which he turned off the computer, stood up, raised his hand to look at the time, and left. Today is the 15th day of the first lunar month. The streets were filled with lantern sellers. The sun at 1:30 was bright, but not blinding, but giving pleasant warmth. Emily turned her head and raised her eyebrows at several children jumping rope. She was accustomed to days filled with battles and killings, and suddenly it became so quiet that there was a feeling that it was all unreal. She put her hands in her pockets and, leaning lazily against the railing, looked at the opened landscape, sorting through her memories. Unexpectedly, a year ago, the head of the Ying family chose her and offered to go to Shanghai to sponsor her college education. She didn't really want it at the time because her birth father Tom had chronic asthma and needed to be looked after. But that day he told Emily that he had been like that all his life and couldn't change that. So he hoped that at least she will be able to change her future for the better. But no one expected that this would lead to such a result. In the beginning, Grandma Emma and Becca treated her quite well, but it did not last long until Chloe got hurt for the first time. Emily thought for a moment, picked up her mobile phone, and started looking on the map for the nearest Chinese medicine pharmacy. 30 minutes later, she was there. As soon as Emily got out of the taxi, she smelled a faint scent of medicinal herbs, which calmed her agitated heart due to a lack of sleep at night. Emily entered the bank. During the day, there were few people, and the service windows were almost all empty. The girl was dressed in a simple black shirt with carefully buttoned buttons, a khaki coat, black trousers, and marten boots, and her hair was pulled back in a ponytail, restrained and indifferent. Her appearance was so outstanding that people passing by could not help looking back. The girl yawned and slowly approached the counter. The eyes of the phoenix were hazy, and the porcelain white skin shimmered like moonlight. The cashier blushed and quickly looked away. She asked to withdraw $2,000 and transfer $1 million to another card, and also asked how long the money was kept in the bank, to which she was told that the storage was indefinite. Emily nodded, leaned back in her chair and yawned wearily, and thought she might be able to get her gold back. Opposite the bank in the pharmacy of Chinese medicine, Noah was sitting at the cashier's desk doing his homework. After much effort, he still did not find the answer to the last question and threw the book away in a daze. The young man got up and was about to find something to eat, but when he looked up, his attention was attracted by a figure behind window. He called his sister and suggested that Emily was walking on the street, but she was poor. What could she do in such a bank, and where could she even get money from? Noah's sister was the same Dr. Eva. At that moment, she was busy making a list, and only accidentally glanced at the girl when she heard these words, after which her face darkened. Noah reminded his sister that not so long ago Emily made her blush. Eve chuckled because she was sure that Emily was just a mediocre, arrogant bitch. And did she really think that a doctor like Eve would want to treat her? If Chloe had not invited Eve, she would not have helped this adopted daughter. Tom was going to unwind a little, but when he saw the girl leaving the bank and heading towards them, he could not help but be surprised, and Eve watched her with interest. Tom asked his sister why this girl goes to their pharmacy. This pharmacy sells only traditional Chinese medicines. As a rule, orders for them come only from hospitals, and there are not very few buyers. Ava chuckled and said that they won't sell her anything. She hates this adopted daughter of the Ying family, especially after what happened yesterday. Ava thought about it, collected her thoughts, and pulled Tom and suggested that he watch her for a bit when she stopped by. She already went to the pharmacy, and usually Emily hides her head and lowers her eyes. But Tom did not understand why they were hiding from her now, to which Dr. Eva replied that they would see if she had enough money for medicines. Eve and Tom looked at the computer screen, which was broadcasting video from the cameras of the trading floor. Simple makeup, light lips without any traces of lipstick. But it was so hard to look away from this girl. A pair of deep phoenix eyes were black, like a bottomless abyss, and seemed to easily suck in everyone who looked there. Tom's heart trembled. He asked his sister. She did not know that she was being watched. Eve laughed and said that she could not predict this. Emily was not a fortune teller. Emily looked at the Chinese herbs on the shelf, lost in thought. Many herbs no longer exist, and alternatives are hard to come by. Emily looked around and found that she had overestimated the quality of the medicinal materials here, from the smells seeping through the wood planks that the herbs were no more than 20 years old. The cashier asked the girl what she was looking for and offered her help in finding medicines. Emily listed 30 medicines and added that 10 of each were needed. Then the cashier said that it was a lot, and first she needed to sign the check. Into the microphone, Ava told the cashier to say the amount of $500,000, which was almost 10 times more expensive than the average market price. But Emily was not embarrassed, and she asked the cashier to give her a check so that she could sign. The cashier got Eva's approval, as they would make a lot of money if Emily paid them that amount. The cashier quickly printed out the check and gave it to Emily, but instead of signing, she took out her phone and started calling. On the phone, she said she wanted to file a complaint that pharmacy, No 148 on South Road, sold Chinese medicinal materials at 10 times the market price. Ava was stunned. She could not believe that this adopted daughter dared to call with a complaint. She panicked, ran out into the hall, and attacked the girl. Emily looked up calmly, although Eve was startled by the look she gave her, but she continued sternly anyway. "How dare you complain?" She began to threaten Emily that she would immediately call her mother, who would definitely put her in her place. She even took out her phone and expected the girl to fall to her knees and beg her not to do this. Emily just yawned, feeling sleepy. Eve hurried and raised her hand in a fit of anger, wanting to hit the girl in the face. But as soon as she swung, her hand was intercepted. Emily raised her eyebrows slightly as there was a sharp sound of cracking bones. Ava felt pain and, unable to resist, collapsed with a crash on the counter. Emily shoved her hands in her pockets without any expression on her face. Ava took a breath from the pain, raised her head, and was about to shout at the girl. But she saw a man standing in the doorway and turned pale sharply. The man leaned lazily against the door, his long legs slightly bent. His face was indifferent, but the words he said made her go cold. It was Liam, and he said that the Ying family wouldn't dare, but he would. His appearance was like the first dazzling ray of light breaking through the darkness of dawn. Emily was even confused for a moment. Eve tensed and reluctantly smiled. She asked why Liam had come without warning, but Liam ignored her. Emily came to her senses and raised her head. At that moment, the man's body leaned slightly, and from his clothes a faint scent of agarwood spread, mixed with his breath, seductive and exciting. His peach-deep and passionate eyes filled with tenderness, seriously looking directly at you, capable of drowning anyone. What happens when the adopted daughter of the Ying family met the 7th young master of the Fu family, not to mention the Eva family? Even the Ying family respects the Fu family. Eve bit her lip as she remembered the man's previous words again, and her panic intensified. Liam looked at Eva and asked if her family was so short of money. Eva was caught off guard and did not know what to say. Just at the moment when she was in thought, Liam picked up the phone and made a call. Liam called Eva's father and said that a large order from his family was canceled. In the pharmacy, Eva also heard this. Her eyes widened. Liam hung up and turned his head. Eva's hands and feet went cold and her lips trembled. She said she didn't expect it at all. She just wanted to teach the adoptee of the Ying family a lesson. But because of this, her family unexpectedly lost a multi-million-dollar order. Her family was not rich, and the loss of this order will greatly affect the Na. Ava could not utter a word. All that remained for her was to just grit her teeth to look at the girl, because it was all because of her. If she had not come here for herbs, such a disaster would not have happened to her family. "Maybe that's enough," asked Tom, who left the warehouse. He went out and continued with a calm face, because nothing terrible happened. Why make such a fuss? It's just a joke. and you haven't lost anything. I promise that I will do the math for you, and we will close this issue." Emily looked up and felt that this man looked familiar. She asked him who he was. Tom's face turned blue. He did not expect such an answer at all, because they were classmates for a whole semester. How could she forget him and why she was pretending? Tom chuckled coldly and said that her grades were the worst in their class. If she didn't improve her grades, she would be expelled. Emily looked at Tom again, but she still couldn't remember who he was. But she did remember something else. The middle school has elite classes that are made up of the 50 best students in the school. So after each exam, the composition of each elite class changes. Emily raised her hand and rapped softly on the cashier's desk, telling her to wrap up the medicines and send them to the hotel across the street. The cashier hurriedly began to check the list. Unfortunately, it was impossible to get the money. She is just a small employee who cannot afford to offend anyone. In less than 10 minutes, the bags of herbs were ready, and Eve, with a pallid face, could only watch as her pharmacy staff escorted the people she hated. "They've gone too far." Tom slammed the table bitterly. "In a few days, when school starts, he'll make her regret it." Eve shook her head, and when she was about to tell Chloe everything, her father called her. As soon as she opened her mouth, a roar came from the phone. The father said that his daughter was useless and demanded to come to him. In a hotel room, glancing at the medicinal herbs laid out on the floor, Liam was about to speak. But he saw the girl slowly take out an electric pressure cooker from her backpack. Emily propped her chin up with one hand and picked up a bunch of herbs with the other, weighing it several times. She tossed it into the pressure cooker. She doesn't have time to make her own oven, so she decided to use this one yesterday, before she left the underground market. She also bought some pieces of jade. Liam raised his long lashes and smiled and asked how she was going to thank him. Emily closed the lid, pressed the start button, and casually said she wouldn't let him sleep all night. Liam's expression was frozen. His peach eyes narrowed, but the smile didn't disappear. His voice was gentle, but there was danger in it. He said that he had a question for her. Emily crushed the jade and poured the powder on the floor. Who taught her all this? To which Emily replied that she had learned everything herself. Once upon a time, she read a lot and remembered well what and how to do it right. After looking at each other for a few seconds, the man flexed his fingers and tapped the girl on the forehead and said that in the future he would forbid her to read such books. "You can't," Emily said, lowering her head and fiddling with the electric pressure cooker. That wouldn't be fun at all. She planned to buy a few more novels from this era to alleviate her boredom. Liam then asked if he could invite her to dinner, but she said he couldn't. Liam looked at the girl's haggard look. Her expression was not feigned. It became clear that she was really very tired, and this did not mean anything else. At that moment, the phone suddenly rang. Liam glanced at Emily and, making sure she didn't blow anything up, got up and left the room to answer the call. Mason called him and invited him to relax in the bar, but he said that for now he was with Emily and would not go anywhere, after which he hung up. But this angered Mason, because Emily was still very young. 3 hours later, the electric pressure cooker made a sound. The resulting dark green pills were few, 50 in all, and she put them in a medicine bottle she'd bought ahead of time, cleaned up the mess on the floor, and handed them to Liam. Emily didn't expect him to wait outside, so she was surprised and asked why he didn't come in, to which he replied that he was afraid to distract her. Emily handed him the vial and said that it was not only for kidney diseases. They also treat the liver and stomach. Emily picked up her bag and slung it over one shoulder. Even though Liam was very interested, he removed the bottle of medicine and asked if she would like to go to dinner with him. But Emily said that they would only be able to have dinner in a few days when she returned to Shanghai, because now she was leaving the city. At 7 in the evening, it was already completely dark, and fireworks flashed from time to time in the night sky. Tom took out flour from an old refrigerator. As soon as he approached the table, he coughed sharply. It took a while for the coughing to stop. Just as he was about to boil water, there was a knock on the door. Tom wiped his hands and coughed a few more times before going out. He asked who was there because it was already so late. He opened the door, looked at the guest, and was taken aback. A girl stood under the ledge, and the faint moonlight fell on her black hair, making her seem to be woven from fog and completely unreal. Although he did not see his daughter for a whole year, her face did not change a bit. Emily took his hand and helped him in. Be careful not to fall. She quietly felt his pulse. Tom's condition is worse than she thought, years of hard work having ruined him thoroughly. He was startled, and before grabbing her hand, his tone became insistent and stern, immediately asking why she had returned from the Ying family's home. He again looked at the girl from head to toe with a more serious expression, asked if these people were mocking her. A common question, but it can easily go straight to the heart, causing discomfort. Emily's fingers tensed. She said that everything was in order. It was just that only today she was freed and was able to come to visit her father. Then Tom let go of his thoughts, turned his head, rubbed his eyes, and tried to calm his breathing. He still could not get his emotions under control, and his voice was trembling. He said that she could always return to him. As soon as he said this, it sounded outside the yard. "Dad, I'm back. I bought some meat. We can cook it." Seeing the girl, the voice abruptly subsided. A broad-shouldered and long-legged guy was standing in the doorway, but his eyes were gradually filled with cold. For a few seconds, the young man froze, and then suddenly turned around and ran away. Tom was taken by surprise. He raised his voice and shouted at the trail why he was running away, but the boy had already disappeared without a trace. Tom got angry and again could not hold back his cough. He asked Emily why. As soon as she returned, her brother Sam ran away. Emily patted him on the back and led him inside the house. She realized that the medicine she took with her would not be enough, so she took her backpack and left. Looking at the retreating back of the girl, Tom sighed softly. His mood was very difficult, and his eyes reddened again. When Emily found Sam, he was standing alone by the river, silently staring at the fireworks in the distance, his eyes pitch black and empty of emotion. The night was dark. A gusty wind was blowing. A thin layer of ice lay on the river, reflecting the full moon. When Emily came over, she took a lollipop out of her pocket and handed it to him, saying it was peach-flavored. Tom did not answer or even move. He laughed, but his laugh was very cold. He thought that he would never see Emily again and asked why she had returned. But even after waiting 10 minutes for an answer, he did not hear. The young man turned his head, but his eyes were cold. Finally, he looked at his sister carefully. His expression changed. She had clearly lost weight over the past year. In the moonlight, he could see the tiny holes on her arm. There were so many of them that it was impossible to count. It might not be very noticeable, but due to the fact that her skin was sickly white, they were clearly visible. The young man was shocked. He asked Emily if she was sick. He looked at his sister and said that she did not come because of her illness. Emily didn't answer, took out the lollipop again and raised her eyebrows and asked him with a smile if he was angry. Hearing this, Sam's lips tightened. With a trembling hand, he took the candy, breaking the candy wrapper. The young man put the candy in his mouth and chewed it into pieces. Even after all this time, he will never forget the ugly faces and words of those people who told him and his father that Emily was the daughter of the Ying family. They gave them $100,000, and they said they would never see Emily again. After that, the sister really did not return for a whole year and did not even call. He waited and waited until he gave up. Now he understood that the sister did not come only because of the Ying family. He asked for forgiveness from his sister and said that he should not have been offended by her. Due to mental illness, he was very hostile, but he cannot control it. The boy's head slightly lowered and his fingers clenched tightly. He tried very hard to change and become a normal person. Emily said she didn't blame him and ruffled his hair a little. When the tension between them subsided, Sam said that his father had been getting worse lately. Emily thought for a moment and asked which university he wanted to go to. The boy said that he wanted to enter the Imperial Capital University, which was the #1 university in China, where thousands of students wanted to enter. Hearing this answer, Emily was not surprised. With Sam's ability, even with a lack of study resources, he can easily pass the exams. If you want to go there, then you will. Emily sighed, because nothing is impossible. Sam thought that sister had become a little different. She used to be silent, but she was not as indifferent as she is now, as if nothing could shake her anymore, what the Ying family had done to her. Brother and sister walked slowly towards the house. They had not yet reached the courtyard when a pleasant aroma came from afar. Opening the door, Emily looked up and froze. In the kitchen, she saw a familiar, slender figure. The man's head was lowered, and she could not understand what he was doing. Her father asked her why she had not warned that she had not come alone. Emily was silent for a while, then rubbed her head and replied that she had forgotten about it. Liam peeked out of the kitchen, revealing half of his body, and said that he decided to go with her at the last minute. It was unexpected. Emily slightly raised her eyes and saw on the man an apron with a picture of Peppa Pig. He asked Emily why she was looking at him so intently again. Did he really look so bad? Tom clenched his fists, covered his lips, and coughed a few times. Isn't that her favorite cartoon character? Liam raised his bushy eyebrows and looked at the apron, after which he said that it was quite cute. Emily's face was blank, and she said she didn't like it anymore. Sam also looked at the picture of Peppa Pig. His eyebrows twitched. He said that his sister used to save money to buy such a toy, and if she had not hugged her, she would not have been able to sleep. Father asked Sam why he ran away when his sister arrived. He wanted to answer, but stopped. He could not say that it was because of resentment. Emily entered the kitchen and slowly said that he was shy. Tom was surprised, because when he received love letters, he was not shy, and when his sister arrived, he suddenly became shy. Sam said it wouldn't happen again and asked who their guest was. The ideal body of a man, slender and straight. Even a ridiculous apron cannot hide his innate nobility. Liam is Emily's friend, Tom explained, and today he will remain with them. After a while, they were alone in the kitchen. Emily looked at him and asked why he was there. When she asked, his peach eyes widened and he said, didn't she want him to come with her? She raised her hand to take the flower from Liam's hand, but due to the fact that at that moment he turned around, her cold fingers accidentally touched his lips. The sudden contact stunned them both. Emily removed her hand first. Her expression did not change, but her fingertips were still hot. The small kitchen was filled with the smell of agar wood from the man's body. Taking advantage of his height advantage, Liam looked down at her. The man raised his eyebrows, his tone as indifferent as always, asked, "Baby, are you using me to your advantage again?" Fireworks bloomed outside the window. Its light reflected in the eyes of the man. It seemed that the whole galaxy was reflected in his slightly curved, deep, and bewitching peach eyes. Emily stared at him for a moment, then slowly took a napkin out of her pocket and handed it to the man. She quietly apologized to him. Liam didn't answer, but licked his lips. He leaned over and stroked the girl's head as if teasing a kitten. Emily was in a daze until a thin hand flashed before her eyes and hit her forehead. A chuckle sounded over her head. What she thinks. Emily came to her senses, rolled up her sleeves, poured the flour into a bowl and added some water, and said that she was thinking about what to give Liam, a cat or a dog, because they can satisfy his hobby of stroking her head. Otherwise, if he continues in the same vein, then most likely she will really go bald. After that, they no longer talked. Each went about his own business. One boiled water, and the other cut vegetables. In the living room, Tom was smiling and talking happily to Tom. Emily thought that she did not remember her childhood at all. Tom was constantly busy. In addition, he had to take care of 2 children. No wonder when the Ying family came for her, Tom convinced her to leave, because they could provide her with the best opportunities, from beginning to end. Tom never thought about himself. Emily narrowed her eyes and said to herself that she would protect them.